Well, the article basically points out that architecture is something that goes beyond just a functional composition of, of the way a building needs to be in terms of its engineering. And he basically says that it's important that we draw from nature. He uses an example of a flower. He points out that a flower fits in perfectly well within the leaves of the particular bush that the flower is growing on. In other words, the flower belongs there. You don't look at a bush and say, oh, look, what in the world is that? That flower doesn't fit in. Look at the leaves. He also gives an example of the leaves on trees. He points out that oak leaves on a pine tree are not very appropriate, nor are pine needles on an oak tree. Rather, pine needles fit in with pine trees. So he's basically drawing an analogy with nature, and he's saying nature has its own way of producing things in such a way that they're harmonious. So when an architect is building something, the ornamentation, if there is going to be any ornamentation, shouldn't be an afterthought. In other words, the ornamentation should be part of the initial design. In other words, whatever the architect is conceiving in terms of a building, it should have, first and foremost, all the parts that eventually will become the building. It's not like he says, oh, I'm going to build a 40-story building, and he's got it all square, and at the end he says, you know, maybe if we put some ornaments on the top, that'll make it look good. He said that's terrible because it doesn't fit. He points out the importance of architecture being an expression of emotion. It's an expression of art. It's an art. And it's very important that that art fit in with the culture that the people are presently involved in. So that whatever that culture is, as the architecture is building through a creative, artistic process, the architect envisions in his design those cultural ornaments that are appropriate, because obviously if you build a building that would, let's say, be very appropriate in China, but you build it here, I mean, it kind of looks funny. You kind of say, well, what is this, you know? So it has to be consistent with the culture, but it's very important that it be artistic. And it's very important that the artistic expression be part of, well, like I said a moment ago, be part of the actual design. He also notes that you can have a building. Let me rephrase that. He points out that a true work of art, no matter what it is, whether it's a building, whether it's a painting, whether it's a sculpture, if it's a true work of art, as you study it, you begin to go beyond the obvious and you begin to discover things that you never noticed before. And you can keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's almost an endless quality to it. The more you study it, the more you appreciate, wow, look at what's in here, you see. And he said that is a sign of a true architectural creation. On the other hand, if the artistic expression is not that good, then you kind of analyze it, you kind of see it, but then there's nothing behind it. It's like empty. So it doesn't inspire or anything, you see. So, and that's basically it.
So what would be his main theory or position or belief? What is it that he believes? That it has to be
that his main
it has to be an
is
emotional, spiritual expression
in an artistic
to
mode from the
beginning.
very beginning. In other words, before the architect actually gets out his tools and his pencil, he has to have that in mind.
Because he's inspired by...
Right. So the ornaments are an organic whole. And that's why he uses the example of a flower. So you can see, let's say, roses growing on a rose bush. Well, if you look at the rose bush has stems, it has branches, it has leaves, it has thorns, and it has flowers. Now, if you just had stems and a flower with no leaves, I mean, nature doesn't do that. Nature has everything working together. And nature has everything working together because the leaves have a purpose. It isn't just that nature says, oh, let's put leaves, the green and the red go nice. No, the leaves have a purpose. And it's for the life of the entire plant, just like the flower has a purpose. So they all belong together. If someone took a rose and stuck it on, and this is my analogy, and stuck it on an apple tree, you would say, what the heck is this?